In 2008, Winnie M. Lee was raped twice while on a walk through Colin Glen Forest Park in Belfast. Lee was 29, her attacker was just 15. He pleaded guilty before the case could go to trial, and was jailed for 8 years. In her work as a film producer, Lee had recently seen one of her projects, Vagabond Shoes, nominated for an Oscar. A few days after she was assaulted, she attended the premiere of another, Flashbacks of a Fall starring Daniel Craig. Her bruises were visible through her gown. Lee suffered post-traumatic stress, anxiety and depression following the attack, and she was unable to keep up her career. But she didn't stay silent. She told the Irish Sun, "One of the most damaging things, apart from the crime itself, is keeping it to yourself." She set up Clear Lines Festival, a 4-day event with art, music and discussion of sexual assault, that ran in 2015, and wrote her first novel, Dark Chapter. The book closely maps Lee's experience. In spare, direct prose it gives a first-person account of an attack on a Taiwanese American called Vivian as she walks near Belfast. This is not an easy book to read. The assault is brutal and degrading. Vivian does what she has to do to survive, and we are made to see and feel it all. The aftermath is also addressed with impressive clarity. First there is the realization of what has happened. He said he was 16, and again she wants to vomit. She just had muddy, unasked for sex with a 16-year-old. Then there are the police interviews, medical examinations, bright fluorescent lights and grey-green walls, frightening procedures to guard against AIDS and test for infections. There are also months and years coming to terms with what happened, floating, as Lee describes it, on the grey surface of a lake, wanting to stay inside, hide under the duvet, frightened of the world. In a deviation from Lee's experience, Vivian's attacker pleads not guilty, and a trial follows. This too is a tense, dramatic reading experience. Defense lawyers attempt to humiliate Vivian, question her conduct and undermine her experience. The rage we feel as readers is compounded by the knowledge that this is often what happens in real-life sexual assault cases. The writing feels defiant and urgent, but it's only half of the book. In a move that's possibly even braver than recreating her personal trauma, Lee attempts to get inside the mind of her rapist, explain his thought processes and explore his emotions. There's a dual narrative from the point of view of Johnny, a 50-year-old Irish traveller, which runs in parallel with Vivian's, relating the same events and even trying to explain them sympathetically. Sometimes, this is effective. There is no doubt that Johnny has had a brutal life, and the story is full of queasy moments of empathy for his rage and feeling lost in an indifferent world. However, this narrative strand is also problematic. Lee has had to take a considerable imaginative leap to get into the head of this young pervert, and she doesn't always clear the distance. His thoughts about his harden and be hours, the Irish slang word he uses to refer to attractive women, don't always ring true. The attempts at dialect and rendering the speech patterns of the travellers never flow as easily as those living in Vivian's privileged world. In her acknowledgements, Lee is careful to say that she does not intend for my novel, inspired as it is by my own lived experience, to portray an entire community nor to malign it. She also makes sure to show some of the hardships and prejudices travellers face. Even so, all of the male travellers we meet in this story are violent criminals, petty thieves and sexual predators. Johnny himself feels like an evocation of a type of man, as the blogger Scott Manley Hadley puts it in a sensitive review on Triumph of the Now. He also feels like a representative of a community, one in which all the lads are out to get what they want from tourist girls. All of Johnny's male friends and relatives are, at best, complicit in his crime, and it's often implied they are committing similar outrages. It creates the sense that an entire race might be preying on women. Some allowances must be made for the fact that these ideas about sex are relayed through Johnny's warped mind, and also because Lee herself has suffered so much and is retelling her lived experience. Even so, it sometimes feels as if there is a dangerous lack of attention to the presentation of highly sensitive material. There's no reason to think this unpleasantness is intentional, but it is a misstep in such a didactic book. The overall message remains important, and it is generally conveyed with skill and emotional force. But I have reservations. Next time, The Ludlow Ladies Society by Anne O'Loughlin.